Hello there, YouTube. We are back with another deck profile for you guys. For those of you who are watching this on Monday, thank you for being a member. We do truly appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving us. And for those of you who are watching this on Wednesday when it goes live to the general public, do consider becoming a member. You know, it's a small way to just keep showing support to the channel and kind of get a little bit more exclusive perks. Right now, the biggest perks are getting early access to these deck profiles that you're seeing, as well as early access to Deck Check, which is the new weekly series that TJ and I have been doing, where we break down, decks that are topping over in JP, which I think is an interesting sort of thing to think about going into unification just in a couple of months. So if those are things you're interested in, please do consider it. We've got some more perks coming along the way with a lot of nice ideas going, so be on the lookout for it. But enough about all of that. Today, the deck profile is going to be about Deep Savers. Now, I've been having a lot of fun with Deep Savers. It's a really cool deck. Me being typically a blue player, it's part of like the Nature Spirits decks that we got from EX-08 that adds a lot of fish support. And I do think we're only going to be getting more fish support moving on. Now, the new stuff that's coming out in BT20 isn't going to be necessarily Deep Savers, but I do see it getting more and more support as sort of more Liberator themed decks get more support too. So I'm super excited, and like I said, I've been having a lot of fun playing this deck and a lot of fun just kind of testing out a new archetype, right? So the whole mantra of Deep Savers is really to be swinging with sort of this pseudo battle protection that you get from your field spell, restanding off of your on-play and evo effects, wideboarding a whole lot, and kind of using Aegis as a top end to say, look, I'm unaffected, deal with my board state. If you can't, you kind of lose, which is really neat. And I think really just plays into, like I said, like better fish support. So enough yapping from me. Let's kind of hop into the eggs over here. We're going to start off with sort of the standard Bukamon egg. When you play out via effect, you gain a memory. Just makes your plays a lot more efficient. There really, for me, is no other reason to run another egg. You could kind of make a case for the jamming Bukamon that we have that's limited to one, but again, you have jamming a lot in your inheritables, and on top of that too, with the field spell in play, you typically aren't dying in battle regardless, so I don't think the jamming is super necessary. I'd rather see the egg that gives me sort of the memory manipulation to kind of keep prolonging my plays and prolonging my combos here. So that's why we're sticking with 4 of the Bukamon. We move on to 3 of BT19 Swimmon. It's an interesting card. I think I could easily see it being swapped out for like Gomamon, for example, I believe. The one that strips a source and becomes unblockable. I could also see it being like another generic blue searcher, I believe. Sangomon was someone that folks have been using if they're using the Tamer along with it. But I liked Swimmon mainly because it has the jamming inheritable. Evade is also a pretty neat mechanic. For example, like when you're playing against Gallant, if they try to pop your level 3 that's kind of sitting out there, you can go ahead and use Evade. Again, there's multiple ways to pop it. It doesn't really game change a whole lot. The inheritable is really what it's there for. But yeah, I mean, it also has fish in trait, so that's also like another searchable thing you can use for it. So this is definitely one of the more flexible rookies. Moving on, we've got Crabmon, which is a DS archetype rookie, which is really nice. Has the inheritable of jamming again, which sort of leads into this mantra of this deck. And then on play, one of your Digimon gains blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. Also helps you kind of stay alive and adds a little bit of like a defensive component to the deck. So I'm running this out of 4 of. And then the next rookie we play to round it up is 4 of the EX-08 Gomamon. Once again, DS and trait, and is your best searcher. You can add 1 card with DS trait and 1 with the Sea Beast or Plesiosaur trait among them to hand. So potentiality for 2 hits on this. And then when attacking, once per turn, if you have 7 or fewer cards, you draw 1. So adds to your consistency, helps you keep stuff in your hand to kind of cycle through, because you are at times playing stuff from hand via effect. So you want to be able to build that hand size up a little bit just for consistency. If you find yourself low on draw power, this deck can really brick a whole lot. So giving yourself that extra sort of insurance policy, I always feel like it's helpful. So that'll round out the rookies. We're going to start off our level 4s with, again, a little bit of a flex spot. We've got 2 of the BT19 GKmon. On play and when Evo, you can bounce an opponent's level 3 to hand. So very helpful for dealing with a lot of those annoying floodgates, Ukamons that survive the check, etc. The Inheritable, again, is really why you're running it, because jamming. This is a deck that likes to swing early with their lower end bodies, restand, swing again. So any way you can give this deck jamming, I say the better. You don't want to rely on the field spell, even though it's definitely a viable option. Giving yourself that jamming inherit is just so good, which is why we chose to run this in the flex spot. Otherwise, I think the level 4 lineup is pretty standard for most Deep Savers decks. We're going to be running 4 of the EX-08 Seadramon, which again, jamming inherit. And then when attacking once per turn, you gain 1 memory. So again, helpful for prolonging your combo plays. A very nice early sort of aggression play that you have is being, you promote your Seadramon that you have in raising. It likely has jamming since you're running 7 jamming sources. You go ahead and swing 1 check jamming, you gain a memory, you can evo into your level 5 Mega Seadramon, which we'll get to in a little bit, but will allow you to restand. You can swing with jamming once again, and you can kind of see where we're going with this, right? So I really like Seadramon as a level 4. I think definite 4 for the deck. And then we move on to round out the level 4s with 4 of Dolphmon from EX-08. I really like this card. It has the same inheritable as Gomamon, which is if you have 7 or fewer cards in hand, you draw 1 card. But the reason I really like it is that it's a 1-cost Evo on top of level 3, which is something we haven't really seen a whole lot of in the game. We used to see it with the old like OG Stingmon, which was again a 4-drop and a 1-cost Evo. Sometimes in a pinch, if you can just drop down a 4-cost level 4 and kind of go up into your level 5s and start to pop off, very viable option. And again, the Evo for 1 comes up more often than you think. So being able to Evo from a level 3 to a level 4 for a cost of 1 just helps you kind of turbo your plays. And I really like it for that. And on top of that, it is DS, so it is fitting in the archetype, which is just helps with your consistency there too. So I think really good level 4 for the deck, and that'll round out our level 4s. Moving to our level 5s, we've got the EX-08 Wamon. I'm playing 1 Evo, and you get to play something from your trash as this Digimon's bottom Digivolution card, and then end of attack, you can play something out. So again, you do want it to survive if possible. So that's why, again, I'm trying to maximize all my jamming inherits to really make sure that this guy, if I have to Evo into him, I can swing, put something that might be useful for my trash underneath it, play it out at the end of attack, and kind of pop off with my combos there. He's not the most ideal level 5, I will say, but definitely a decent option. The Inheritable can't, change your attack targets. I think is becoming a little bit more of a generic blue level 5 inherit, for better or for worse, right? But I do like it for that like end of attack effect, which only goes live, right, if it survives. So you really want that jamming inherit in there or the field spell. So I'm only running it at a 2 of. I don't think you really need it more at a 2 of, because I think the Mega Seadramon is a much better level 5 for the deck. And to round out the level 5s, we are going to be using the Huangkunmon from EX6. A lot of you guys know this card from Mirage, because this is what really made Mirage go crazy the past couple of sets, being able to play out your floodgates. Here, you're able to play out a level 3 or lower blue card from one of your stacks. So again, you can play out your Swimmons, your Crabmons, your Gomamons to gain that memory. So if you, like, for example, training into this guy or scramble into this guy, it becomes essentially like a 1-cost Evo, which is really good for just making your plays more efficient. And it just helps you keep a body out on board for sort of unsuspending shenanigans too. So I like this card. I don't think it replaces the Wamon completely, mainly because it's aquatic but not DS. So sometimes in a pinch, like, consistency is always good, right? And you do want that DS consistency as much as possible. So I do choose to split the 2 up. I think when you're talking about like Giga Seadramon or like the new updated reiteration of Fish come BT20, you could definitely make a case to say this guy goes up to like a 4 of, or at least a 3 of, just because of its potential there. But at the same time, I think right now, because you do want to keep as many DS pieces in the deck as possible, I'm doing the 2-2 split. And speaking of DS pieces, I think this card is your best level 5 by far. This is the EX-08 Mega Seadramon. I'm playing 1 Evo, one of your Digimon unsuspends. And then when attacking, once per turn, if you have 1 or more memory, one of your opponent's Digimon can't suspend until the end of their turn. So really good for kind of a defensive option, I would say, with added aggression, right? Being able to unsuspend a Digimon, not just this particular stack, but anything on the field is really, really nice. And speaking of unsuspending, the inheritable when attacking once per turn by placing one of your other Digimon as this Digimon's bottom Digivolution card, you unsuspend. So same thing as Huang-kun, allows you to really get a lot of aggressive checks in with a lot of tempo. So when you think about your jamming inherits, right? By being able to swing jamming, you go into your Mega Seedramon, swing again, you can go into like a Plesio or something like that and just keep kind of stringing along those unsuspend plays. This is also a really good level 5 to go into to pass turn, right? Say you swing with your Seedramon or your Dolphmon that has jamming, you survive because you have jamming, you go into the Mega Seedramon for 3, maybe a pass turn, but now you can restand. They have to deal with it via effect or DP reduction, and if they don't and they swing, you have that lingering ace kind of potential there too. So I really, really like it for that reason. And I think it's by far, like I said, your best level 5 for the deck. Moving on to our level 6s, we've got the EX-08 Plesiomon. I think pretty self-explanatory. Like, this card is what potentiates your Aegisdramon plays. So when evoing, you can play out a level 4 lower Digimon card from this Digimon's Digivolution stack without paying the cost. And then your turn, once per turn, when your Digimon are played or Digivolved, which is key, if any of them have the DS trait, 2 of your Digimon may DNA Evo into a Digimon card with the DS trait in the hand, and then the Digimon can attack. So what you really want to do with this card is you want to go into Plesio. You want to be able to keep turn, ideally, play out a level 4, such as Dolph or Seedramon, and then you want to be able to go into like a Mega Seedramon and DNA Evo, because this effect essentially acts like a pseudo like end of turn DNA Evo inherits, sort of like what we saw with Vmon and Wormmon, right? Where you Evo into something with DS, and then you go ahead DNA Evo off of that like Plesio effect, and then you can go ahead and pop off Aegis' effect, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So the potential and I think the efficiency is there, even though you don't have that dedicated inheritable, which I think is really, really cool. And you see that a lot with these Nature Spirit decks. So definitely a really strong card. You want to see it at a 4, so no other reason to knock it down, in my opinion. Now, this next level 6, if I could find room to run 4 of it, I would, because I think it's really, really good. And this is Metal Seedramon Ace from EX-08. Also has DS and trait. Blast Evo, you de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, and then return one of their play cost 7 or lower Digimon to the bottom of the deck. And then all turns, when you have 1 or more memory, none of your opponent's Digimon can suspend. So really, really good if you think about it into decks who like to blitz, aka Gallant, because if they've passed turn, they can no longer declare blitz, because now they cannot suspend off of Metal Seedramon's effect. And not only that, being able to de-Digivolve 1 and bottom deck a 7 cost or lower is really, really strong, because I think de-Digivolve is still one of those mechanics in the game that not a whole lot of decks have an answer to or protection from. And de-Digivolving a level 6 or a level 5, you pretty much can get rid of the stack right there and then. You know, there's not a whole lot that they can do about that, which I really like. So it's a great and excellent defensive option that, again, can pair very, very well with your Plesio. If you're able to keep both bodies on the board and they pass turn, you can just straight up DNA into an Aegisdramon right there and then. So I think it's a really, really good ace card. I also think it's pretty splashable in most blue decks, because again, de-Digivolve is just so strong. And that all turns effect, I think, is kind of slept on. You know, being able to tell your opponents, hey, if you have more memory, not only can they not blitz, they can't block, they can't, you know, all those things, right? So I think it's really, really cool in that way. And then moving on to the top end to wrap up our Digimon, it's going to be Aegisdramon. We run that at a 3 of. Really, really good card. The when evoing effect, again, kind of lines up with a lot of the Nature Spirit top ends that we have in EX-08. But basically, on evoing, you can return up to 14 play cost total worth your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck. And then if you're DNA evoing, you can play up to 12 play cost total worth of DS trait cards from this Digimon's Digivolution cards without paying the cost. So again, you want to see that DS archetype as much as possible. So you do want to maximize that as best you can. But being able to bottom deck up to 14 play cost worth, I think is really flexible, because you can choose to bottom deck a level 6 deck. You can bottom deck, if they're wideboarding, multiple 3, 4, sometimes even level 5s to the bottom of the deck and get rid of their board state, and then build up a board state of your own. You can also, at times, if you're kind of desperate, you just want to put out a Plesio, you can play out a Plesio. You know, as long as you play out a total of 12 or less, you're totally chilling, right? You can build up a wide board, you can build up just a big body and call it a day. You have a lot of ways you can go about sequencing this, and I think, again, really, really good, because paired with this all turns effect, when you have one or more memory, none of your DS trait Digimon are affected by your opponent's Digimon's effects. So essentially, shuts down any blanket effects, shuts down any ace plays, and kind of makes it so that you're kind of free to swing as best you can. I do like that they didn't prevent it from like option effects, because security bombs can still hurt you. You don't want to make it too broken, but I think it's a pretty good balance with by saying just Digimon effects. And then when you have one or less memory, meaning that it's their turn, none of your opponent's Digimon can activate on-play effects, which again, not bad. With how decks like to wideboard and stuff like that, I still think it's a really, really good kind of blanket effect there too. So Aegis really helps your body stick, helps you prolong another turn, and then hopefully you can just go for game afterwards. So really, really good top end. And then moving on to the Tamers, we just run 2. Davis, Memory Setter. You know, you are memory efficient with this deck, but any ways that you can help make that life a lot easier for you, you try to do that. So having a Memory Setter is your first step. And if you're thinking about a blue memory setter that helps with consistency, look no further than Davis. Like, there's a reason we still see it played even to this day, even though it was released in BT3. It is just a really, really good blue memory setter. You know, I don't think there is a blue memory setter that comes close to doing what Davis can do. So there's no reason not to run him. And then we run our traditional consistency pieces with 2 of blue memory boost and 4 of the mental training. Again, searching, consistency, efficiency with your memory plays is really, really important. So if you can try to maximize that, you try to. I've considered doing like a 3-3 split of mem boost and training, but I just feel like I typically run, if I do it, I typically do 2-4, just because there's still a lot of like memory blockers out there being run, and training just gets around that. But however you want to split those up, I think it's totally fine. I do run 1 blue scramble because, again, scrambles is just so good. You know, being able to reduce your evo cost is great. Being able to help put something from trash to top of deck, to help find a missing piece, really, really good. In a deck that likes to play out bodies and build a board presence, again, sometimes if they can deal with your board state, all you need is to play that rookie out, hope it lives, and you can go along and string your combo plays there. So I think 1 of Scramble is almost mandatory now in the meta, so there's no real reason not to run it. And then we round out the deck with 2 of the Deep Savers options from EX-08. Really interesting like field spell that we have, right? You know, a lot of the Nature Spirits decks got this sort of like 2-cost field spell that I think this is the first time we're seeing something like this in Digimon, which is really cool. So it's a 2-cost. While you have no face-up security cards, you can ignore this card's color requirements. So you can essentially play it for 2-cost anywho's. But when you have 1 or more memory, none of your DS trait Digimon can be deleted in battle. So essentially during your turn, if this is in security, you have jamming. Unless you hit an option card, you're not dying in security. So the goal is to just keep swinging away as often as possible, especially if you have this option card in your security stack. Because again, you have jamming. You will just keep swinging, chipping away at security, doing damage, so that when you have the Aegis play live and you have a wide board, your opponent has to deal with it or else they just lose. Okay. And then main, yeah, add your bottom security card to hand. You just place this as a face-up bottom security card, which I think is really good, because then if you play it early, your opponent has to chip away at security until they hit this card. So it's really nice to like just have that there and know that it'll be there for at least another turn or 2. In a pinch, if you have no security left, you can just go ahead and play this card and put it in security, right? Like, again, it's probably going to get checked next turn, but again, it just puts it there so that your opponent has to get that extra swing in, which is really good because if you have the security effect pop off, you may play one level 5 or lower Digimon with the DS trait from your hand without paying the cost. So you can go ahead, play something out. If you have a level 5 in hand and they hit it, you have the ace threat now, right? So now they got to play around that and be careful. So I think it's really, really good. I'm really liking sort of the mechanics of DS, of Nightmare Soldiers, Nature Spirits. I think they're really, really cool decks, and I really hope to see more support for these archetypes. And like I said earlier, like I'm having a lot of fun with this deck. It's a nice change of pace from, you know, the rest of the meta. It's definitely not like tier 1 or tier 1.5, but it is a nice change of pace deck that can still do some pretty crazy things. You know, like I said, Metal Seedramon Ace is a really, really good card. Aegis Dramon can do some really nutty things. And like I said, I'm excited for more of this support. You know, it is a little bit interesting in the sense that Giga Seedramon doesn't really follow like the DS archetype. So this deck will change a lot. Like when you're referring to fish, I think Giga Seedramon will start to take over in BT20. So I think Deep Savers may take like a backseat. But at the same time, like I still think there's merit to running some of these DS pieces. So I'll be curious to see what kind of mix is going on there. And yeah, it's just a really fun blue deck to play. So if you're enjoying it, let me know. If you guys have any suggestions, also let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Check out our socials, which are linked down in the video description below. It contains our Instagram, our Twitter, our Discord. If there's any like suggestions or feedback for the deck, or you're wanting to learn more about it or talk more about it, hit us up on Discord. It's the best place to do so. And lastly, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. You know, if you're enjoying the content and you want to support the channel, that's one great way to do so. So thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate all the support as always, and we hope to catch you on that next video. Bye-bye.